Alex Laux here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. In my last video, I showed you how I basically go about doing a quick shoot outside, bringing the film home and processing it. So today, I'm actually going to take you in depth on how I process black and white film. So earlier in the week, I shot a roll of Kosmo Foto Mono 100, which is respooled Fomapan 100. An amazing black and white film stock, nice classic look, plus I help my good friend Stephen Dowling over at Kosmo Foto whenever I buy and shoot this stuff. So I'm going to be processing this in Ilford Ilfotec HC, my personal favorite way to process Fomapan 100. So the first step I need to do is get it into my Patterson tank by spooling it onto this plastic roll in the dark. So the real trick I find with getting film onto the reels is to practice first if you're new to it. And then once you have it down in the light with a throwaway roll, you can sort of close your eyes and learn how to do it by feel. And eventually it just becomes muscle memory. Like anything else in regards to photography, practice makes perfect. Now, when it comes to film processing equipment and reels, there are two schools of thought. There's plastic and there's stainless steel. I learned on plastic, so that's why I keep going back to it. The downside is your reels need to be 100% bone dry. A lot of people swear by stainless steel, and you know what? That's fantastic. Go with what you know, go with what you like, and just stick to it. That's it, nice and easy. So let's head over to the kitchen and we can get this started. So I live in a condo, so I really don't have any dedicated space to process my film. So I do everything here in the kitchen, mainly because I have a water source here, plenty of overhead light, and lots of counter space to really spread out and make sure everything's set up. Now, for those wondering why I was wearing nitrile gloves while loading in the film, is to keep my skin oils off of the actual negative material, which has an adverse effect on it, leaves fingerprints and stuff, and it really doesn't look nice in the long run. And also, inside a dark bag, in the summer months, it can get pretty hot and sweaty in there, and that really does not bode well with loading film onto plastic. So the first step I always do is I do a pre-wash of my film. And that just really gets the film up to temperature, cleans off the anti-halation layer, and really prepares the film to receive the liquid chemicals that I'm going to process it with. Not 100% necessary for every developer. For ones that are penetrating developers like PyroCat HD, a pre-wash is necessary, but for your average developer, you don't need it. I've always done it this way, so that's just what I keep doing. The best thing you can do is to find a method that works best for you and just stick with it. It also gives me time to prepare the developer, so let's turn around and take a look at that. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to be processing the film in Ilfotec HC. This is Ilford's version of my favorite developer, Kodak HC110. It's fairly thick, hard to handle. The new version of HC110 is apparently much easier, but I'm still working through this bottle. It's fairly viscous. So I'm going to need 8 milliliters of my concentrate, and for that I use a tiny graduated cylinder to get that measurement. And if you remember your high school chemistry, you need to measure to the bottom of the meniscus curve. Bam, right on the money. I will measure the concentrate into my big cylinder. And as you can see, a fairly thick pour. And then what I'll do is I'll do a couple of cycles where I fill my small measuring cylinder up and just pour water in there. That just makes sure that I have all the concentrate I need, and then I fill this up. Okay, so once you have that done, it's time to actually pour in the developer. So here we go. The trick is to do a nice, steady pour. You don't want it to be too fast or too slow. Too fast, you'll get surge marks, and too slow, it'll just start the developing action the longer you take. So the first step is constant agitation. You do this for about 1 minute, and it's a nice, slow, steady rhythm. Again, you want to avoid those surge marks on your film. And that's it. This will take about 10 minutes to do. Now, don't think that once you've done that initial 1 minute agitation, that's it, you can let it sit. Well, you can, but in this case, I can't. It will require agitation every minute. And we're coming up on that now, so let me show you how I have figured out how to do the agitation. So I've figured out that I get the best results if I agitate it 5 inversions every minute and then give it 3 sharp taps to dislodge any air bubbles that have been generated. One thing I should mention about agitation is that some people prefer to use a swizzle stick. Now the swizzle stick really just rolls the film back and forth. It doesn't really agitate the chemistry inside the tank. So I found it doesn't produce preferable results for me. Now sometimes a film developing calls for gentle agitation, in which case a swizzle stick is perfectly acceptable. So what's great about the Massive DevChart app is that it's completely customizable. You can input your own film developer combinations at times. You can adjust existing ones. You can make time temperature conversions if you process film a little hotter, a little colder, and you can even change how long each step is. It might cost $20, but you know what? It's been worth every penny since I first got it. Okay, that's it with the developer. 10 minutes goes quickly. The next step is a stop bath. Now again, there are a couple of schools of thoughts when it comes to stop baths. I am both a user of the chemical stop bath and the water stop bath. It all depends on what film and what developer I'm using. Since film developer works in a base environment, a stop bath introduces an acidic quality to the chemical, and that shocks the developer into stopping. And when you use water, you're actually diluting it. So if I'm using a highly dilute developer, now in theory I could have done that today with a 1:63 ratio, but for your sake I'm going with a chemical stop bath. The water stop bath simply dilutes the developer down to stopping to work. And the stop bath is a nice short step. You do 1 minute of constant agitation. You can really shake it around a bit here. So the final step in developing the actual development process is fixing the film. As the name implies, this will fix the image to the base by sort of clearing away any silver halide that hasn't been really exposed when you took the image. It will also make the film safe to introduce to regular light again. I've been fixing my film for 7 minutes for any type of film. You really need that longer fix for modern emulsions, so Kodak T-Max, Fuji Acros, and Ilford Delta films. Even some of the Foamapam films can go for a longer fix. The final step in any film development is the wash. The first step in your wash cycle is to use an archival permanent wash. This will help kill off, dilute, eliminate any leftover fixer on it. I've been using the FPP archival permanent wash. I've also used Kodak HypoClear. What's nice about the FPP stuff is that it reduces my wash time to only 3 minutes as opposed to an advised 10 with Kodak HypoClear. You can skip the wash step and just go for like a 15-minute wash under running water, but these days you really don't want to be wasting that much water. Another method for washing your film is the Ilford method, and that's where you fill the tank, you invert it, you give it 5 inversions, dump, fill, 10, 20, 40. But in the case of Ilford, you again need to use that permanent archival wash. The FTP stuff is great, it's inexpensive, and it just lasts. This is really only my second bottle, so I'm just going to let the water run for that final minute, and then we can finish this off. So the absolute last step for the wash is using a wash aid. I use Kodak Photo Flow, but Ilford also produces something like this, and it's kind of like, it's a wetting agent. It helps make it easier for the film to dry streak-free. I just top up the tank, pour it in, give it 5 inversions, and then it's done. And now the real magic happens. That film that has been locked in the dark and you've been pouring stuff in and out of can finally show up. And darn. Yep. It worked, but not really. And that's the real point of the matter. As awesome as developing your own black and white is and working with film, it keeps you humble. As you can see, I had a bit of a failure here, and that has to do with the camera. It looks like only half my frame got exposed. Well, that's it for today's video. As always, I'm Alex Laux. If you're new, please subscribe and hit that bell icon. Give me a like and leave me a comment. Until next time, go out there, shoot some cool film photos. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get it into a daylight tank so that we can take the it will wash away any of the unexposed silver that has not been exposed to light. So depending on how, last but certainly not least, is the final wash of your film. The first step in any wash process should be using